Before we get this episode rolling, I'd like to shout out our awesome sponsors. First on the list, we have Fish Sauce with the Rod Positioning Gadget, also known as the RPG. It's a slick little tool that'll help you get your rod holders good and tight. Find them online at www.fishsauce.com. Next up, we have Anglers Unlimited. For those of you that like to support local businesses, these guys are doing it right. They have all the tackle you could possibly need under one roof. They also have a huge selection of fresh and cured baits. Robert and his guys are sure to get you lined out with what you need for success. Open 7 days a week from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. Stop in and say hi, and be sure to tell them Clayton with Wet Net sent you. After that, we have Northwild Outdoors. Northwild is the top of the line when it comes to spinner blade patterns and paint quality. They also do custom paint jobs. Go check them out at Anglers Unlimited or Bob's Sporting Goods, and find them online at www.northwildgear.com. And last but not least, we have Coldwater Strong. Coldwater Strong makes the highest quality salmon and steelhead gear for boat and bank anglers alike. Find their gear online at www.coldwaterstrong.com. What's going on, everybody? Clayton Dietz here with the Wet Net Outdoors podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in here for another one. I'm really excited for this one. Been trying to get this one for a little bit, and schedule's finally worked. and I'm really thankful to be sitting here with you tonight. Yeah. Cameron Black with Gone Catching Outfitters and Addicted Fishing, man. As always, if you guys are liking what you're hearing and seeing so far, please be sure to subscribe, share this out there with your friends, leave a comment, let me know what I screwed up on, let me know what I can do better, or let me know what I am doing good. We have quite a few sponsorship announcements. Anglers Unlimited, we talked about this a little bit on the last one. They got their new location coming soon in Rainier. That one's going to be a good one.
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, that's a big one. So we got that one, and then we got they're going to be putting up actually a podcast suggestion box right there on their front counter. So
that should be good. That should be real good.
I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see how that's going to go. But go ahead and leave me some suggestions for guests, topics you want us to talk about, anything in between. Talon Rods, right now Talon Rods has they're doing a giveaway for River Reapers Outdoors. I believe that's Matt Lindsay. Go ahead and check out their Facebook and figure out how to win that. Also, January 1st, 2025, they are going to be raising their rod prices a little bit. Sounds like it's stuff to do with inflation. You know, you got to be able to afford to make the rods you're building, and you got to bump those prices up a little bit. 2024 prices are good all the way until January 1st. So I'd go ahead and get your rods ordered now if you want to at the 2024 prices. Coldwater Strong, you go ahead and subscribe to his website. You're going to get yourself entered to win in some monthly giveaways. You only have to subscribe once and you'll be entered to win some kind of online database deal. Takes care of all that. So you can win anything from a kill bag to bleed bags or anything, a bunch of bumpers, so on and so forth. I think that's pretty much it for the sponsorship stuff. I did want to give a cool shout out to Ivan and Jerry over at Flat Out Fishing. They sent me over this sweatshirt, and they're slick. They're super cozy.
Looks good too.
Yeah, I like the colors on it. I like the colors.
Those guys are a riot to fish around for sure. When I finally get a little bit over there on to their east side a little bit.
Yeah. No, they're a blast. Did a podcast episode with them a little bit ago, and they're just genuinely good, fun dudes. So we'll go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of it. So Cameron Black, obviously, a lot of people know who you are, but I like to try to dive a little deeper in depth, maybe a little bit into your childhood, kind of how fishing came into your life. I don't know if you started when you were young or what.
I mean, honestly, going to the lake with Grandpa. Yeah. You know what I mean? Back in the day, I can still remember catching like my first fish. It was a little sunfish on my own, a little salmon egg I put on a hook and dropped in the rocks and got him. I can still vividly remember catching it. I could probably, point to the rock pile in the lake that it still was, and. Yeah. I don't know, just kind of once I kind of figured that out on my own, just that one time, he was trying to catch trout off the bottom. I was like over here, I'm like, this is boring. Yeah. Gonna go do some other stuff. And then it was like, ooh. And then growing up there in Battleground, the Battleground Lake bass, I mean, I punished that little population there, and Mom would drop you off with the raft and you just float around the lake, when I was like 12, 13, 14, and then she'd pick you up towards dark, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, and then, being in Battleground, kind of grew up on the East Fork, and back then, I mean, goodness, they had a hatchery steelhead run that was just, I mean, it was good.
I've heard stories.
Man, it was good. And like, if you didn't have a winter steelhead by the end of October, you were already late to the ball game.
Right.
And I used to be able to ride my bike to a lot of the holes up there, kind of in the upper East Fork. We can say river names on this, right?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. You can say river names. You can throw out F-bombs, whatever you want to do.
Oh gosh, easy now. But no, growing up there, and then just started kind of running around that river, pitching spinners to even some of the summers that were in there, and a lot of the winter runs, and that really got me going in through high school. So that was kind of like the quick cliff notes on where it all came from. But yeah, shoot. And then really though, my dad fished and then my grandpa fished, but not like we do here in the Northwest.
Right.
Like they weren't into they were there. Oh, they planted some trout at the lake and go throw the bobber and salmon eggs, whatever, or bobber and the little single Potski eggs there at the lake. That was kind of it, but it's like, man, there's just so much more.
Yeah, right. How'd you kind of get started on like the main stem Columbia doing all that stuff?
So what was really cool was that I loved all the tributary stuff, East Fork, North Fork, Lewis. I mean, those were the haunts. But right out of high school, I was going down. I was actually going for a fishery science degree, and so I was starting my kind of tenure there at Clark College. And I was actually, believe it or not, I was a barista in a coffee shop.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'm like, well, I needed a job that I could kind of work in the morning really early, and then I could go to class, and then get done with whatever. So I thought it was a good idea to serve coffee. And this is like, I graduated high school when I was 17. So I turned 18, got the job. And it just happened to be by the Region 5 Fish and Wildlife Department office.
Oh, really?
Those guys would come in every morning for a coffee break. I mean, government workers, come on. Like, that's anyways.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Not really. Anyways, they'd come in a lot, and I got to just talking to them, knowing them and whatever. And then one of them kind of a year later was like, hey man, he's like, I might have a job for you. Like, he's like, you need to talk to this guy and apply here.
Yeah.
And I did, and I got it. It was actually working on the at that time it was called the Squawfish Project.
Oh, really?
But now it's pike minnow. Yeah. So that before it even changed over, that told you how long it goes. So I started working at Fish and Wildlife, and man, I did that job for a year, summer, and of course you're at the boat ramps, and now I'm getting exposed to all the other ramps and kind of like seeing all the other fishermen coming in and out, and like, oh wait, I don't understand why the Clamor ramp is so busy in September. Like, weird. Like, why are all these guys anchored out here? So really got into that kind of fishing, because I used to like tributary stuff, bobber and eggs, throwing spinners, all that kind of stuff was just all I did. I didn't even think about the big water. Well, then the next year they're like, oh, we need some creel surveyors. We need some sport guys, fish checker.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be a fish checker? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be a fish checker. Actually, let me back that up. Earlier in that spring, they're like, oh, do you want to do commercial observation on the Columbia River, like in February? I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything else. Sure, let's do it. So I started doing that. And then that was, of course, like a total immersion in, the commercial fisheries and spending a lot of time on the gildet boats with the gildetters and all that. Then I did sport creel. And then once I did sport creel, that exposed you to hundreds of different anglers a day. Yeah. All the hot areas. They were putting us where, honestly, the fish needed to be checked, when they needed to be checked. And that, for those next 4 years, like when I was kind of bouncing around, when you work for the department, you do very seasonal work. Like, oh, springers are in, you do a check there. You do, oh, there's summer sturgeon tagging to be done up in the gorge. Oh, you go over there. Oh, there's dead carcass stream survey stuff that you got to do. You go do that. Oh, there's more fall sports. They're like, they really, just bounce around. In the wintertime, I did chum work. I did a lot of chum stuff, like at Bonneville, up there, like in November and December, and a lot of the tributaries. So you really just get thrown into like where these fish are, when they are. Yeah. And really got immersed kind of in that. Well, then, a few years into that, I'm like, I was growing up on the East Fork, had the drift boat, and then got into a drift boat, got into all that. And then I'm like, well, shoot, I can kind of like start guiding this. Yeah. And decided, well, you know what, this is it. I don't really want to tell how like some of the story went down, but basically I just did one day. I was kind of not, I feel like I'll say it. I was kind of forced into like one of these things where I had to either kind of like pull the trigger on the guiding thing or kind of commit all the way to kind of finishing my tenure there at the department. And I said, screw it, I'm going guiding. Yeah. And then, that's where it all started. So having that background and kind of like getting that immersion into the Columbia River fisheries. Then I bought a small sled and went kind of nuts on all after that. But yeah, it was very rooted. A lot of the stuff that I learned and a lot of the things, once I started guiding, I kind of got mentored by a couple other good guides too, just kind of like how a lot of the guides that are kind of like upcoming in this area kind of do. And then, but on top of that, I, like we said, just also talking to hundreds of those anglers and just learning from them, because I didn't have anywhere to learn to. You had the STS magazine, Fish Hunting News. I'll even say it, ifish.net.
Yeah.
It scares me to even say that place. But anyways,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you had that kind of stuff to immerse, but it's like, until you actually go out and do it, it doesn't mean anything. So being out there, seeing it all, and doing that was just, I think, huge.
Yeah, right.
I think if anybody really wanted to have like the most well-versed education on like what goes on in Southwest Washington Region 5, you should go apply down at the department.
Yeah.
And you'll learn some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you'll also learn that at that time, like every Thursday morning during Springer season, the office was cleared because they're all up at Drano trolling herring. Like it was every Thursday morning because they closed the office Wednesday, or they closed the lake Wednesday.
Yeah, right.
For the tribe netting, but then everybody thinks that the tribe gets them all.
Yeah.
So then no one shows up Thursday, and Thursday had the highest CPUE, catch per unit effort, in the whole area for spring Chinook.
Yeah.
So every Thursday morning you'd go to the office like, where the hell is everybody? They're all up to Drano. Freaking at that time it was bait and weight,
Right.
4 ounce cannonball, a couple of herring.
Yeah.
And you just trolled it around. So I even learned that too. I'm like, I want to check Thursday afternoon at Drano because I'm gonna go fish it Thursday morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was probably about half the amount of people as there are now, I'd imagine.
Oh. No, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. No kidding. So when did you start guiding? How long ago was that?
20 years.
20 years.
20
Really?
years. I had my fourth Coast Guard renewal just this last February.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
super cool.
I think the date on it's like February 25th.
Yeah.
So
I still can't believe you still got hair on your head.
I don't. My wife says I'm losing some of it.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm 26 and mine's going away already too.
Yeah. Being a paid babysitter will do that to you.
Yeah. So kind of where in those 20 years, where did Addicted kind of come in, and you guys started obviously doing all this? You know?
So no, about probably 10 years ago now, but maybe it might be 11, but halfway through kind of that guiding, just in guiding, I met Marlon there at the river, and it's kind of a funny story because I'd seen his stuff for about a year and seen it getting tossed around and whatever, I mean, it's something new in the industry, and we all know how everybody in the industry likes something new, which I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But regardless, I was, I had this one little haunt that I wobbler fished. Now, for those that don't know what a wobbler is, back in the day, when we didn't troll during the slack tides, we would anchor up 4 hours before the tide because we were a bunch of idiots. And then you'd have to sit there and wait for the current to run before you could catch a fish. I know, shocking, right? I had a wobbler spot, and it was a good wobbler spot. Don't get me wrong. And we would blast fish there. And one day, I was there, and Marlon and Lonnie and I don't know, maybe Josh was with them. I can't remember. One of the guys, they were anchored next with them, and we sat next to each other and kind of met Marlon and kind of bullshitted and just was like, we had a good time. We had a good day of fishing.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, guys, kind of parted ways. Yeah, catch you later. One thing. So I get out there the next morning. Like I said, we had to get out there at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Man, I'm coming out of the marina, and I'm like looking down there. I'm like, there's a set of boat lights out there. What crazy freaking son of a gun is sitting out there in the spot where I should be? And I'm like, oh, it's Marlin. He's like literally sitting on my X. I'm like, you dog.
Yeah.
And so I pulled over next to him, and I'm like, all right, let's at least like tie the boats together. Let's like make this work. I'm like, you're a jerk. It didn't matter for whatever reason. I just remember that week just being, it was like the first or second week of September when things were just like phenomenally good.
Yeah.
But anyways, anchored next to each other again for the day, proceeded to rally fish, had a great day. And then I was like, a lot of your stuff, I'm like, all those pictures and stuff you're posting, I'm like, that was all like my stuff. Like I grew up right there by, Hyson, whatever.
Yeah.
You guys can go try to catch them right now. Go ahead.
Have fun. Yeah.
Go get them, Tiger. They ain't there like they were. I can tell you that. But anyways, I grew up by Hyson. I'm like, I recognize all those areas. Oh yeah, we got a winter steelhead fish. We traded numbers, and then I think I made their first video with them their first like tutorial. I think the next spring for coon shrimp spinners, or for actually whoa, wasn't even coon shrimp back then.
It was big prawns?
Big prawns,
Oh, yeah.
big Atlantics. Yep, Atlantic prawns, and how to rig that and go troll Warrior Rock and kill a springer.
Yeah,
and then from there on, well,
it's blown up.
yeah, you know the deal.
Yeah.
So about 10 years into it, and 10 years into guiding, and it was. I mean, shoot, it was a lot of fun. It was something different.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
Yeah. So you're about 10 years into this. What are some specific things that you and Addicted have done that you're like really proud of? Like, are there a couple things that you're just like, you're super happy that this happened?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, we've done, other than like just like outside ourselves, like just like a lot of cool things, but just like I kind of talked about before, where, there wasn't an outlet to kind of learn like what I had learned,
right,
like on the Columbia River and with a lot of these fisheries, and just really engaging with like all the sports. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those freaking anglers that I was checking were complete freaking jerks.
Yeah.
Because fishermen are jerks, but a lot of them, the majority of them were like really nice, really helpful. And if I asked a follow-up question, like, man, you got a lot of springers in your boat, like, like how did you do that?
Yeah.
This came out like 19 years old, like running around the docks, and people taught, and people like, oh yeah, this. In fact, one of actually I could still remember to this day, Scott Lipp, rest his soul. He we used to call him Laser Man at the mouth of the Lewis. I was checking at Cathlamet, and this guy would just come in every morning, 2 fish limit back then.
Yeah.
Keep it. Now we're really dating ourselves now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Scary. Anyways, 2 fish limit. He'd come in every morning, 2 fish. And then finally he's like, he's like, you want to come out tomorrow? Where are you checking? I'm like, oh, I'm down in Longview tomorrow. I'm close enough. He's like, why don't you hop out with me? And we're just going to go anchor up there. And he's like, you'll get your 2 fish. He's like, I'm like, yeah. And and ever since then he brought me out. He was like one of the first guys that like ever like kind of like did something like that, that I kind of knew outside of my buddies and stuff that I fished in high school with, and like, we'd run around and do the rivers and stuff. And man, I went out there and it just blew my freaking mind. We sat there on the top of Tennesseelie and watched freaking 60 springers get whacked all on quick fish.
Yeah.
No Brad's killer fish, all on damn not true running quick fish. And just we killed it. And he taught me that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. So when Marlin was starting to do like kind of the addicted thing, like I really saw like at least a benefit to that, and being able to put that kind of stuff out there and really be able to like teach people, because in a way, like I also believe like teaching people also makes it kind of easier for everybody too.
Yeah.
Because like, for instance, if I just like grabbed a boat and then just started anchoring willy-nilly and didn't know anything about anchoring like correctly, and hog lines or long lining lines out like 300 feet instead of putting them behind, just stuff like that, it does kind of make everything kind of jive.
Yeah, everything just flows smoother.
Well, yeah, you don't want, and I would kind of coin the phrase, for the fishies, like, when in Rome, do as the Romans. So like, you got to learn what the Romans do. I don't know. So I've always kind of thought that there was always a niche for that. And of course, even before Addicted, one thing that I did early, like once I started getting to my sleds and I got a Riverview sponsorship, and so I was doing just tons and tons and tons of trips. But one thing I would do is I would always go and talk at like, the CCA. CCA was like really firing up back then. Steelheaders, just kind of all the local, back then it was Southwest Washington Anglers was really big. I mean, I know they're coming back now and doing their thing, but I'd always, every time they asked, like, oh, I'm there to teach. I didn't mind talking in front of people. I didn't mind public speaking. So like, I was already kind of like into that anyways.
Yeah.
And just seeing the benefits from that when Marlin came along and he was just taking it up to another level, engaging social media, doing the discussion boards and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, I can jump on board.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and the timing of it seemed like it was awesome, because like Facebook was really blowing up and Addicted was just kind of right there with them. Yeah. I still remember some of the earlier videos, with the old intro and like the Jaws music, and just kind of seeing how much it's grown from then to now, and you guys are basically nationwide now, aren't you?
Oh, dude, it's at least more Midwest, California. California is huge for us, and it's just because the population. And I think a lot of those West Coasters just kind of look up north and like the salmon and steelhead. I mean, they keep in mind, like, the other piece of it too, which is kind of tragic, but they've lost a lot of their like salmon fisheries, especially the last couple of years in the fall, at least some of their offshore stuff. And so like they're engaging with kind of what's going on up north. I'm getting a lot of clientele that's calling early now because those are gone, and so they're trying to learn. And so we have a huge base in California. I mean, of course, Oregon and Washington, Alaska, right. But now really expanding over to the Midwest.
Yeah. So, and then you guys got all your stuff in Walmart. That Walmart deal, is that a nationwide deal, or is that?
No, it was a Northwest. I can't remember what they called it. It wasn't like a distributor block, but they have like their own sectionals, or not sectionals, but their own pieces in there. And one of the guys, one of the buyers there was kind of a fan. So they put that together, and next thing you know, it was sitting in Walmart.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. Yeah, it's just been super cool seeing kind of what Addicted has turned into. You guys have got knives, you guys have got all your hooks and everything. Like that, if you would have told me 10 years ago that that's where Addicted was going to be, I would have been like, I don't know.
Well, and it's so funny because when it comes to like knives and hooks, it's almost like a little bit out of necessity, and then it was like, okay, I wanted to make sure that there was like a good knife out there. So like that knife, even before was even talked about on Addicted, like I was running prototypes around from guys building them for me in Idaho and guys building them for me in California. Well, now our new manufacturers in California. But like, and same thing with hooks too. Like even hooks like within the Mustad line, it was just like, gosh, there's got to be some better hooks with some better attributes. So then of course, once you create that product and you put it out there, well, now it's going to be out there for me to use. It's going to be out there for other people to use too. But really, it's like, well, I wanted a good knife. I wanted some damn good hooks. So there we go.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I got any more Addicted questions before we jump into the next segment here.
I mean, the only thing I'm going to say, if you want, the only Addicted question is the one thing I didn't think we'd do would be like making movies.
Oh, yeah.
And Marla and I went back and forth on this. We're going to make a movie. Like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. And then, of course, I turned out to be wrong. And so now, here at the sports, now we've partnered up with the Sportsman shows coming up, and we're going to have our fourth movie premiere, or no, our fifth.
Yeah.
Well,
the fourth Alaska one, isn't it?
The fourth Alaska. Yeah, it'll be our fifth movie, fourth Alaska, but it'll be like our third now set of movie premieres coming up here at the Sportsman show. And I can tell you, like this one, the way it just, I don't know how it happens, man. The way it went down and how it's going to be the best.
Yeah.
I think it's just freaking cool, and it leaves also more on the table for later down the road. So it'll be an interesting one. And so so making movies for sure. I didn't think we'd be doing that, and here we are. Making them.
You want to drop a spoiler? You got any cool spoilers?
well, I mean, it's going to be kind of centered around Alaskan halibut.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to see that. Actually, trailers are going to come out probably when this is out. And I know the tickets are for sale now, which I don't want to sit here and blow it up on your podcast,
right.
But
you go to Addicted.
You can go to Addicted.fishing and check it out. But yeah, I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Just because I know what happened. I know all the craziness that happened. And I think it's just going to fit really well with our genre and just Alaska, and just in that setting, I think it's going to be badass.
Yeah. I got to tell you, those movies are awesome though. Like I've seen all of them, obviously, and it just seems like the energy going into it, and then all the guys hanging out. It just seems like such a blast.
It's really funny because there's always like it's and this is this and. Marlon's going to probably listen to this and be like, you son of a gun. But like, it's so funny because I think I'm the only one that stresses out about them like as hard as I do. Like, oh, we got to prepare. We got to do this. We got to plan A, plan B, plan D. Because that's the way I work. Like that's the only way you guide this industry for 20 years is like you plan, prepare. You're way ahead of the game, and then we get there, and then it all falls into place every freaking time, and it's never what I think is going to happen. Never. But then it falls into place, and then it turns out to be a pretty good movie. So I don't know. It's going to be. It should, like I said, it's just going to be exciting.
Yeah. What's it like shooting a movie versus just like going out and filming one of your guys' videos? Does it feel a lot more intense, or
it's a lot more is on the line, because like so you want the movies to really be like it. When we go out and do, I don't want to say just a YouTube video, but I mean, the YouTube videos are very easy. And the thing about the YouTube video is like, you go out and you do it. And if it's a bunk day, or if like, it just doesn't happen, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
No big deal.
Whatever.
They'll film them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like there'll be something else. Like there's not like this, like when we go to the movies, like it's a freaking undertaking. We have hired camera guys, hire editors. We've got to get all the equipment stuff brought in. And so like, there's like a lot more at stake to really making sure that the movies are hit. And then it's like also because of the seasonality. And by the time you have to like film it, have it be a wrap, edit it, make sure that it's good, and then have it before the sportsman show, like you kind of get like one crack at it. Like for whatever reason, if we went to Alaska this time and a freaking bomb cyclone or something came in there and knocked that whole movie out, like I don't know what we would have done next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like, well, but it's so versus a YouTube video, like I said, you could we could walk over to a creek and do one. But the movies are a little bit, I feel like we're 100% on them right now, so I don't want to like definitely knock on some wood, but it's all working out.
Yeah.
It's tougher.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, looks like we're getting pretty close to cutting a break here. Up here in this second segment, I think we're probably going to do a little bit of a recap of like what we saw in 2024. I mean, today's what, December 7th, 8th, something like that. We'll do a little. Is it the 9th?
I don't know.
My days are all screwed up. Anyways, we'll do a little recap kind of on some of the cool things that we saw in 2024.
Yeah.
Some of the shit that we saw might have sucked a little bit.
It was the worst fall we're ever going to have.
Yeah, ever. And we'll even dive into some of our winter fishing opportunities. I know some people like myself get a little gloomy in the wintertime.
I hate this time of year.
I'm not out chasing winter steelhead. I'm just kind of starting to maybe fish kokanee a little bit here and there. But we got a lot of cool things coming up, and then we might dive into a little bit of some of the things we got coming up in 2025. So alrighty, well, we're gonna go ahead and cut to a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Are you a fisherman looking for a rod that can handle the diverse fisheries of the Pacific Northwest? Look no further than Talon Rods. Whether you're trolling the Columbia River for salmon, chasing massive oversized sturgeon, or targeting kokanee on our high mountain lakes, Talon Rods has you covered with high-performance rods built for every type of fishery in the region. The best part is every rod is 100% made in the USA, crafted with pride right here in the Pacific Northwest. Talon Rods doesn't just stop at quality, they're also direct to consumer, meaning you get a premium hand-built rod at a price that won't break the bank. Why settle for less when you can experience the best? Talon Rods, built by anglers for anglers. Visit talonrods.com and get yours today. That's talonrods.com. Alrighty, we are back from a little break there, and we're gonna dive right back into it here. I never figured out what the date was. December something. This December something. Wrapping up 2024.
December 9th. Now the official cell phone.
Yeah. It's December 9th. We're wrapping up our 2024 year. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of really cool stuff happen this year. A lot of not so cool stuff, but kind of as a whole, we can work it chronological order: springers, summer fish, fall fish. What are some cool things that you saw with our fisheries? What are some things that maybe surprised you, threw you off for a little bit, so on and so forth?
No, I mean, I think one of the big ones that this year was just the pleasant surprise was just steelhead.
Yeah.
I mean, steelhead for wintertime, I mean, it was, as we were kind of getting into the new year, 2024, it was very apparent that there was just a lot of steelhead around.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of a little unexpected, but, we were able to kind of like pivot and kind of capitalize on it and got into some, back honestly at a lot of the steelhead fishing that I used to do way back in the day, where, you kind of switched over for a few years in January to doing more like kind of rafting and sturgeon stuff and just kind of like poking, kokanee, and then kind of like poking around. And then, steelhead was kind of like kind of more into March, and then more, definitely later season because, they've removed a lot of the, they moved like the Cowlitz River, Thanksgiving run, the A runners and some of those that they didn't have, those just don't exist anymore. So like, as far as like my tenure in the guiding world, we kind of lost that. But then last year was just such a strong winter run that we saw like a lot of early fish, even associated with the B runs. So we had like quality fishing in January and February, and then excellent fishing into March and April. So that was good. But then when it came to the summer steelhead, like some of the stuff over on the east side, if I remember correctly, I think it's been like I think the shoots had more summer steelhead this year than they'd had in like the last 30.
Yeah.
I don't hold me to these numbers, but it was a phenomenal summer steelhead run, like even for like over in the Snake and stuff like that. So it was just very apparent that wherever those steelhead went, it was really good. And I can already tell you that this year, even as I sit here today on December 9th, like we've been catching some steelhead, and I can already tell you we're already catching wilds, which is nuts, and big ones.
Yeah.
Broke one off today, got one about 15. Like, I am so freaking excited because I think this is like the earliest. I went to a wild river and just said, you know what? I'm just going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And found a couple. I was like, and I mean, I'm talking the nicest of the nice. So I think as we go into 2025, it's pretty apparent that the steelhead, I'm kind of hoping are going to continue.
Yeah.
Granted, last year at this time, I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
So, they could have maybe been there also last year, but I don't know. But all I know is I think we're going to be in for a good one.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gearing up for that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the summer Chinook's kind of meh. Forecast this year, I know the numbers it's not that exciting for 2025.
Yeah.
Upriver Spring Chinook's a little better than 2024.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be able to get our, kind of our first week of April Columbia season. I mean, guys will be trying in second week of February.
Yeah.
Bless their hearts. Go get them, guys. Please get off the steelhead rivers.
Right.
And so they'll have some opportunity there. And then I don't know what we're going to get in fall, but I know that the jack counts last fall at the same amount of time compared to the year prior for last year's run was like 150%.
Oh, really?
So like if they're and they don't usually solely use jack counts, but if the jack counts are an indicator of what we got coming this fall, we got a good one coming this fall for fall Chinook.
Yeah.
So I think it's, we're poised to just get after it this year.
Yeah. What do you think of our 2024 Springer season? How was that?
No, it's garbage, man. It was so it wasn't garbage. It was good. Like, especially like the later fisheries when you just let the fish come in.
Yeah.
The tributaries, some of the Southwest tributaries were great.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want to say that, but I did. Above Bonneville was good. Yeah. Really good, really consistent. It's really nice when you can look at the dam count and go, oh, well, there's 10,000 of them over there. I guess I should head up that way.
Yeah.
So, like, it was good. The early season was kind of we had a lot of water. We had a lot of water in February and into March, and then March kind of dried up, but it wasn't the best early fishing, and then it was really hard to go out and troll like for springers and to get 2 to 5 bites kind of a thing. Like when I could have like gone and racked like a dozen steelhead by early morning.
Right.
So I'm really getting jaded when it comes to that lower Columbia steelhead season. Now, granted, if things it's all weather. I mean, if we get a warm spring and an early runoff and
rivers are just blown out.
Well, if they blow out and then like if things just warm up, like we can have phenomenal fishing, the last week of March and first week of April. But it just seems like the last like freaking 3 or 4 years. I remember 2 years ago in the first week of April, it was snowing on us.
Yeah.
That ain't going to bring the springers in.
No.
So I would rather just wait. So who knows what's going to happen there, but at least it sounds like I said before, we're going to get some seasons and it should be good.
Yeah. That's awesome. What are some of your highlights for 2024? What are some fisheries that you thought went really well for you? Just anything super cool happen?
I'd definitely say, like I said, getting back into the steelhead, even the summer steelhead, man, they were just big and nice, and winter steelhead are like cool to kill and all.
Yeah.
But I mean, summer steelhead are just, they're the springers of the steelhead world. So like getting into those in June and July was really, really a treat because they were just freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a surprise. And then B-Run was kind of meh. Yeah. B-Run was kind of okay. Not great, at least around here. If you would have gone north, I think it was really good. But Columbia B-Run was just kind of another bust.
Yeah.
Not a bust, but a bust.
Yeah. What did you think about our 2024 fall season?
The gift that kept on giving.
Yeah.
They've about 3 years ago, within the North of Falcon process and having some of the guides get involved with that buoy 10 fishery and just being like them finally getting the reins on that, where that lower Columbia fishery wasn't taking all the quota. You can't, everything's managed to a forecast, but if the forecast is off, it just blows the numbers out of proportion when we're killing wilds in lower Columbia. And I don't know if you like to kill wilds in lower Columbia or not, but 3 years ago when they finally figured that out, and they're like, we just have to have hatchery only down there. It sucks. It sucks for me.
Yeah.
I love getting off the water at 8:30 at buoy 10.
Right.
And then maybe going back out with my family and friends afterwards. Like that's so hard to do now because you just have to get lucky.
Yeah.
Like you can catch 25 of them and still kill like 2 good ones.
Right.
But we have a fishery that's open that doesn't screw up everything else, even for down there too.
Yeah.
And then, we go down there on Labor Day weekend. I bring some of the Fish USA guys from the Midwest down there on like September 7th, and we're just blasting big, beautiful, bright kings down there.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was not hatchery only. So all those toolies cleared out. So once they kind of got that under wraps and figured that out, it let the fall season upriver. That ended up coming in a little over the forecast, but even then over the forecast, it still just kept it in check. It kept us within the numbers, and then it allowed them to just keep opening it. And that's why it was just open. And then ultimately, from at least Woodland up, it opened all the way through the whole season. And then I remember coming back after muzzleloader season in October and going down and doing a couple of group trips with a buddy of mine down to the Cowlitz again at the mouth in mid-October, and we were just wrecking fish.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, well, if we screw it up at buoy 10, you wouldn't get that. I think they got that under wraps. And so that was, like I said, it was the gift that just kept on giving this year.
Yeah, right. So just kind of circling back to that hatchery only deal at buoy 10. I know we're past buoy 10. We don't need to harp on it for too long. But just like, I've heard of guys releasing ridiculous amounts of wild fish.
Yeah.
And with the mortality, isn't mortality factored into kind of what?
Yeah, the release number is there, but you got to realize, like, if you're catching them and killing them, it is 100%.
Okay.
And there is an argument to be made. Well, if we just kill 100% of them, that's better than releasing, 1,000 fish and killing 10% of them, or is it? At the end of the day, it's how the numbers, like, we can argue which one would be better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter what we think. It matters what the checkers think and how those numbers are all divvied up. And as far as I'm concerned, if that's the way we have to go versus like killing the first one or killing the first 2 and being done.
Yeah.
Because that's like the argument out in the ocean, right? Like, we should just kill the 2 first wild cohos, and we'd probably inadvertently kill less than if we just released 100 of them, right? Like, there is an argument there, but just for whatever reason, it's how the numbers mash up. It just doesn't work out. Yeah. Like, as much as I would love it to, it doesn't work out. And so, and then when it doesn't either work out because it would end up having us kill too many, or it doesn't work out because the forecasts are off, and then you have that 6-day wild season we had 3 or 4 years ago, where like it lasted like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then we killed like, I can't remember the number. It was
a ridiculous number.
It was like 8,000 or something stupid.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they have to shut the whole thing down. All the East Side guys, all that stuff, because we can't even touch another one because we blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
It's too ripe for a mistake. They ain't that good at forecasting them.
Right.
And then you get a heat block, or then you get a rain and it moves fish, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
sucks, but we have to spend long days down there. But you get to catch more Chinook with me. So
yeah, that's right.
Where else are you going to go in this, the Northwest to catch 20 Chinook, 25 Chinook?
Yeah, those days are a blast if you're not doing it, 30 days in a row or however many days in a row.
I wonder why I'm going bald.
Yeah, no kidding. What about coho? What do you think about the 2024 coho run?
I don't really concentrate on it until I know the A run was fantastic. We had that early rain in August.
Oh my God.
And I know
August 2nd or 3rd or something like that down there at the 10 can. Well, because I went out into the ocean and we were on them first thing in the morning, and then I think that tide swap started pushing in and I couldn't find them anymore, and ran back in, sat at the 10 can and smoked them.
Yeah, it's a whole. I mean, you got the whole wide ocean, and then you got that. I mean, I call it little itty bitty river channel.
Yeah, right.
It's not, but it's a lot smaller than the ocean. And so, when there's a constant bottlenecking, concentrating effect there for sure. And I think with the A run, the A run came in strong, and I think they were those fish that were triggering to like come into the tribs and whatnot.
Yeah,
like we had all that rain that 2nd and 3rd week of August, and they just freaking bombed in. And of course, fresh coho equal biting coho.
Right.
So they didn't get stagnant, and they blasted them. But then the B run was just kind of. We didn't get that rain. We didn't get those tougher, the higher water conditions. It didn't bring them in as fast. There wasn't as many of them. I got a million excuses. It wasn't as good as that A run was for sure.
Yeah.
And even hearing from the guys in the tribs, like fishing August and stuff, were just cracking them.
Yeah.
Cracking them. And Well, we were catching Chinook.
Yeah. If you had one takeaway as a whole from your 2024 year, what is something that 2024 taught you? I mean, obviously you've been doing this for 20 years, but there's always room to learn.
This kind of pertains to steelhead, and not being involved in like a lot of the sled fisheries that I have been, way back when all it was side drifting.
Yeah.
Or all it was like pulling diver and bait, back trolling plugs. Taking some of the techniques from kind of the Midwest and some of the stuff that we do in the raft, and then really like kind of applying that more to the sled fishing and just seeing and then having a good year. Yeah, we had we had a target rich environment.
Yeah.
But damn, we caught them. So like really seeing that, and that, last year kind of having like all those weird techniques and all that kind of pieces, just kind of like the pieces of the puzzle, like falling together, and having a lot of fish, man, like I said, it was just phenomenal. And then carrying that right from winter into summer, like that's the takeaway. That's what I'm most excited about for 2025.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, let's see here. Okay. So, we're creeping up on our upriver sturgeon fisheries. We're less than a month from that.
Oh gosh.
Well, I guess we could touch on that for 2024 also, the 2 days of it that we had.
You know what? The water temps were warm, and guess what? They're warm again now, and I'm already kind of eyeballing the 2 week kind of forecast right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got another day of sun.
Yeah.
Excuse me, freezing sun, and then we're getting into like a weather pattern that is not going to be good for that.
No.
In other words, I'm anticipating another throttling unless we get a polar vortex or something changing. Like I was up there smallmouth fishing just 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I still had 49 degrees.
Oh, really?
And if it stays above 43, it's going to be a slaughter. And I don't think it can, but the east side's got to get a polar vortex or something to really dive those temps down, because the west side's going to go for the next 2 weeks. It's going to get pretty warm and mild and just rainy.
Yeah.
And that's not going to get those temperatures down. Yeah. Sometimes we fish that upper fishery at 38 degrees, 39 degrees, 36 degrees.
Yeah.
It's real hard to get them to go. You're going to have a nice long season on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in for another quick one.
Yeah. Well, we have that same 675 fish quota that we did last year too.
But they're getting rid of the Mondays so they can extend the season further.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah. How does that work when we had 2 days last year?
It doesn't work. It's so they can actually manage the run and make sure that we don't go over.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. Would it not make any sense for them to kind of make that size window a little bit smaller?
The problem is if you make the window a little bit smaller, then let me think about this. So if you make the window smaller, then you're also taking like those fish like out of that quota is derived for fish that are 42 to 60. I'm just going to use the total length, but whatever the hell it is, 38 to 54 now.
Yeah.
Fork length. If you bump that up, you could be taking like 20% of the available fish out of the quota. You can't just move that up and then still catch 675.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So once you move it up, that overall quota number does come down.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, you got to rip the Band-Aid off and be like, we got to do something a little different up here. And I think also like if you moved it up even to 40 inches, and then maybe the next year to 42, you would have a much more quality fishery. You also have co-managers in the mix, that are commercially catching sturgeon up there at, the 38 fork length or whatever there's. So like it's not just as easy as moving that up, but because like I said, people think, if we just move it up to 40, then we kill 675 fish, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But I kind of think if we don't change anything and just making it Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, which this year it's Wednesday, Saturday now, is actually worse, because what it does is instead of like branching people out over 4 days, it just concentrates them all into 2.
Yeah.
So it does that, obviously proven that doesn't do a damn thing for extending anything.
Yeah.
It's a fallacy. But I think we should start looking at maybe next year we only get to kill 500, but they're all 40 inches. And then I think the following year, then you can expand that quota back.
Yeah.
Like you got to get the fish into that slot limit first is I think how it works. So don't hold me on that, but I think it's how it works.
So just kind of like eat the shit for 1 year. That way, hopefully the year after.
But the problem is then, of course, and I can understand why the managers don't want to do it because then now we only kill 400 fish and then everyone's going to flip their freaking lid on that. And then also when the numbers go down, like there's the potential like blowing them out of the water in one day. I mean, theoretically, we almost did last year.
Yeah, so. At that point, is it even worth giving us a day?
I think they should do it, though, because even going to 40 inches would just make the quality of fish just a little better. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to kill them, they might as well be a little bigger.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I'll go steelhead.
Yeah. Well, I know the participation last year was crazy. I mean, I didn't even get to fish it, but I heard stories that it was just
why. Okay, you have no lower Columbia sturgeon fishing due to complete 100% inept mismanagement.
Yeah.
Period. Hard stop. No more discussion. How they've managed seals and pinnipeds, the federal government. Hey, everyone, please email Elon, please. Oh gosh. Like, we know what the problem is there. We didn't let them make babies and we killed too many of them.
Yeah.
And hard stop. So no sturgeon fishery down in the lower Columbia. And then now, because we went to the Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and we were shutting off these fisheries after multiple days, everybody knows that if you wanted to be a keeper sturgeon fisherman for 365 days of the year, like we had 20 years ago, now you're only going to get 2 days. What the hell do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
They're all going to show up, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I did more I'm telling you, every day. The 2 days I was sturgeon fishing, I'm sitting there like filleting sturgeon in boats, and guys are asking me like how to fillet these sturgeon. They've never gone sturgeon fishing before in their lives, but they wanted to come up and try it, and they're hopping in the boat, and I'm literally showing them how to fillet a sturgeon so they don't go home and freaking butcher theirs.
Right.
I had that happen both days, like a dozen people each day.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't blame them. I mean, it sucks. It is what it is, but I don't blame them. But it just shows you like how they've condensed that fishery. They've literally just condensed it all into those few days. And then we're shocked a bunch of people show up.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Right.
Weird.
Yeah. We should try to get
just imagine if you only had like 2 rivers opened in the Northwest for steelhead and only opened for 1 week out of the year.
Yeah.
It's the same freaking, what would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we're shocked.
Yeah. We should just try to get more people to go walleye fishing.
Well, I mean, they are better eating, sorry. And there's a lot of them. And we can kill every single one of them out of the pools.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, after a high spring, we'll get them right back.
Right.
There's no killing them all in the Columbia.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother thing. I'm sure Jerry and they talked about it. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing up there. But those guys can kill every walleye in those pools, and they'll be back 2 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. What do you think about kokanee? Have you heard many reports so far?
Yeah, guys are getting them in the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, I just see it on the book of faces like everybody else right now. I haven't gone up. It can be like my biggest kokanee I've ever caught up there at freaking old Merwin was like in January.
Yeah.
It was a freak. It didn't spawn for whatever reason.
Oh, really?
And it was just
yeah.
I've only caught one of those in the years up there. So I think it's cool to see. I mean, there's an opportunity there for guys to go up and catch them. It's good quality eating fish. Yeah. I mean, if they can catch them in the wintertime, I don't know what happened to that place this spring. The turnover did not do that lake very well.
Yeah, right.
I had to do a lot of my kokanee trips up at Yale just to make them fun, but it's cool to see. I mean, I think that's going to just keep going, pending some of the restoration stuff up there, but we'll see how that all shakes out. I don't even know how that's all going to start, but it's good to see.
Yeah. Let's see here. We already kind of touched a little bit on what you're looking forward to in 2025. You got anything else piquing your interest from 2025? Or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't even announced this or said anything yet, but on the bass scene. Yeah. So like there was a new like pro circuit tour starting up in California, but one of the events is on the Columbia River. It's called the BAM Super 60.
Oh, really?
And I applied to it. I saw it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to apply to it, put my TBF scores and whatever. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fish our national semifinal this year. Kind of had some other, some other stuff going on, but turned in all my scores for the last 2 years of this tour and said, hey, like I can be your huckleberry. Let's go. I want in. And if you think that this is good enough to let me in, let me in. And they had 45 pro anglers, and then they had they had a bunch of applicants, and I made the first round of applicants.
That's
so now
awesome.
I'm going to be fishing this tour next year, and every there's 4 events, and every event top prize is $50K.
Yeah. Oh,
and
really?
then they pay like down to $3K for the top 20 out of 60.
Yeah.
It's 4 events: California, Arizona, Columbia River, and then they take the top 30 and they fish them at clear come November. And if you make the top 30 over the circuit, you're fishing for $150,000 in a boat. You're fishing for a $250,000.
Really?
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, it ain't cheap to get in, but you got to pay to play. So the entries are $10K, and I'm going for it.
That's awesome.
So I'm
Is Clint doing that with you?
No, this is not. So what I do with Clint is the Bass Federation TBF.
Uh-huh.
They have like it's like a national kind of like ring and circuit. They have one for each state, and I'm still going to do that. Fortunately, the schedules are going to work.
Yeah.
Where I'm still going to do that. I'm not going to leave him hanging, man. He was a baller last year, dude, putting up with my stuff. But he tore it up, and I'm pumped to fish that this year again.
Yeah.
But that's something a little different. This pro tour is like you're one by yourself in your boat. It's not teams, and it's a little more of like based on like the kind of the single angler and how you compete. They don't let you fish these lakes for like a month ahead of time, and you just have to go in blind. And there's ways you can kind of like pre-fish them when you go fish other tournaments. You stop in and check stuff out, and you do internet research and just stuff like that. But it's a little more like it's not like, oh, you can have a really good team. Maybe you get a team guy who like lives on that lake and he's like your hammer. You know what I mean? Or there's none of that. They try to like wash that out because you're competing for so much money, and it's some of the names on there. Like I've been watching ever since I got into it, and it's pretty crazy because they dropped the bottom 10.
Yeah.
So it's like literally my goal for 2025 is not to be in that bottom 10. Like just survive 1 year, get into 2026. Like this is your rookie year, and just see how it goes. So I'm getting more geared up, amped up, prepared.
Yeah.
Like not really like mentally prepared, but just doing homework, doing what I can right now, because we don't have a lot of the opportunity that some of these guys that they do in Arizona, Southern California do to fish bass. But like I said, even then, it's just it's like a few days ago I was out there on the Columbia just trying to get on some smallmouth and doing some other things and hitting some largemouth lakes around here even in December, just because these guys are no joke. Yeah. They're no freaking joke, and they know what's up, and they all paid $10,000 too. Yeah. So
yeah.
See how it goes. Awesome. Yeah. So that's my 2025, and as cool as Steelhead was, I could really care less if I catch another one.
Yeah. Are you gonna try to have any like videos or anything while you're doing that, or can you?
Yeah. There's yes. The question is do we want to? I'm in talks with some people to maybe make like a channel and like a series of it, because they also have the 4 events, and then they have like some pro-am events, which actually like the bottom 10 that fall out of the tour, out of the Super 60, they pick up from this other Northwest and West division of pro-am tournaments. They take the top 5 AOI angler of the year, in points, and move them up. So like that's how you win a berth. They expanded it last year, so that's why I applied and just kind of scapegoated like right into it a little bit. But it's like they don't. But I'm trying to figure out a couple ways to film that, and then actually just make it a whole like West Coast freaking series, and then hope I just don't get my butt kicked. Hopefully I get a win in there, something cool happen, because it could get ugly. I don't know, man. I have no idea.
That's awesome.
So
that's super cool.
I think we're gonna try to do some filming there.
Yeah, that would be badass. Well, we're down here to our last couple minutes. You got anything else you wanted to announce, chat about?
No, man, I appreciate the podcast, and I mean, I love listening to it. I love like getting into the head some of the guys you've had on there and stuff. It's been pretty cool to watch. Other than that, I'm just, like I said, out there looking forward to getting a lot of steelhead this year, and just expanding on that and taking advantage of it. So if you guys are out there and you're looking for a steelhead trip, freaking hit me up. And if not, we all know that. I mean, everybody knows everybody over here. They're out there fishing and whatnot. And I mean, just getting excited to really get that season going, because November just sucks now. Other than a little hunting, there's just nothing going on anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you giving me your time and sitting down and bullshitting for a little bit. And
we'll do it again, like before, like, you know, maybe when the runs come out or some of the forecasting come out. I'll do some forecasting stuff with you, and we'll kind of dive into like what some of these numbers and stuff means or something like that if anybody wants to see it.
That'll be awesome for a dummy like me who doesn't understand.
Oh, I'll let it rip. You know that.
Yeah. Well, this is a platform to do it. We're not censored here. So
very good, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is a really fun episode, and as always, hit that like button, leave a comment, share us out there with your family and friends, and we'll see you here for the next one.
Yeah. See you on the next one, guys.
Thank you very much.